Welcome to Cashflow Savannah. Today I have one of my favorite guests, Michael Bucentini. Mike works with home investors. We're going to do a live deal analysis. And I want to say for the audience, Mike called me about this a few days ago and I said, stop, 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 stop. I need to be at a computer. I was driving. I can't look at numbers when I'm driving. And I said, this is a learning opportunity for our viewers. And I love to learn. And I only want to surround myself with other people who love to learn. So I'm assuming if you're watching or listening to this, you also love to learn and you also probably love Savannah real estate. So Mike, welcome back to the podcast. Is this your fourth appearance, third, fifth? What do you know what number we're at?
Somewhere below 10.
Less than 10, more
Yeah.
than two for
More
sure.
than two. I've been here a couple times. First time with glasses, I will say that.
That's true. I
That's a
love to hate on
new
you because
addition.
you do way better on my social media than I do on my own social media. Kind of
That's probably
annoying.
because I don't do social media.
You're just way better looking, smarter, richer, all of the things than me. I think people kind of respond to that. I don't know. So anyway, give Mike some love if you're watching this. We are recording this in June of 2025, just to put a marker, because this will take a few weeks to get out. And I want to say this. I want to say it on camera. I called you last week and I said, Mike, the market is turning. Did I not say that?
You did?
And what did you tell me yesterday?
Oh, about my offer?
Yes, you have how many? Tell us what you have for sale and how things went ham yesterday. I'm really happy about this. I'm happy for you.
So I've currently got six on the market, and everything I've put on the market is just doing nothing. Like getting showings. I mean, this particular house, probably about to discuss, had multiple showings. I think we're somewhere in the 70 range right
Wow.
now. Yeah. Actually, the people that ended up putting an offer on were one of three groups that had seen it more than three times.
Three
Yeah.
showings to write an offer. And but then all of a sudden the sky opened and you got how many offers on it?
Ironically, I got one offer we got two offers, but the one we ended up taking was actually probably the slightly less better offer because I got one offer from a person that wants to live in it, and I got an offer from a national rental company for cash. Now, me personally, I choose personal residence every time on those deals. I'm not a big fan of the national rental companies. I had one in my last neighborhood, and that was the worst house in my neighborhood. And
Yeah.
that was one of the deciding factors. And me personally, I firmly came into this business wanting to improve communities, and I can't do that by making a rental in a neighborhood, not of the quality that most national companies do.
I
A
love
homeowner
that.
will always be better to a house than a landlord.
I love that, Mike. That's awesome. Well, it's
So
ironic that you're telling me this because, I post on social and maybe you're seeing this on social media somehow. And I literally was checking my meta stuff yesterday and someone had commented on my Instagram post and I was in front of one of the houses that I sold and now manage about what a great deal it was for the buyer and how it's cash flowing for him. And this person posted and said, "You out of towners ruining the historic area of Savannah," like all these things that were not true. I'm not from out of town. It wasn't a historic house. It's on the south side for crying out loud, and I responded, I said, "Excuse me, we're making a big difference in this neighborhood. We took the worst house in the neighborhood, got it for a discount, which we should, and now it's a great, very nice 4-2, completely redone." And I love that you're thinking that way too, Mike. I'm actually very proud of the work that we're doing.
Ironically, the house behind me was our first major restoration of a house
Okay.
pre-1950, and it was the absolute worst house neighborhood. Had the crackheads in it, had everything wrong with it. The "you'll never make money on it" was my favorite thing because we ended up making six figures on it. And I chose this house because it recently sold again. And so when we sold it, we had an ARV on it of 310 back in 2020, and they told us we got laughed at. We got laughed at. We listed it for 370 and sold it for 360
Wow.
on a 310 ARV. And so fast forward to about 3 weeks ago, this house just sold again. They have updated nothing from our rehab. So it's been 5 years on a rehab. The floors actually are looking pretty rough. We had the hardwoods refinished beautifully, but they're looking pretty rough in the pictures that I saw.
Hmm.
It just sold for 525
Wow.
for a house that would never make 310.
That's the
Trust your
power of
data,
real
trust
estate.
your gut. So
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I was told many times you'll never make money. But when I started buying rentals here in Savannah, everyone paid the same amount. It was 650 a house. And if you had a really nice
well,
house,
that was a 3.2. A 2.2 was 450.
okay, see, I had two ones at 650.
Oh,
I
did
bought
you?
multiple two ones at 650.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I always all my two bedrooms I ever bought before 2020, they were all rented at 450 or 350. Those were all the two
Interesting.
ones that I had. The three ones were all 650. If it had a 3.2, you might get 700. Those are the
Mm.
numbers I saw.
I never saw 700. I saw 650 all day, 650 all night. And I said, no,
I
I'm
only
going to
saw
furnish
700 on
this.
3.2s, only on 3.2s.
That's what got me into medium term rentals because I flipped that to 2000 immediately once I made it nice and furnished it. And anyway, point of the conversation is the market has turned, things are moving. I'm proud of what we're doing. Go ahead and give me hate, but I am proud of what we're doing here in Savannah. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful city, and one house at a time, we're making it even better. And today we're going to talk about making more money in real estate. You have a very random deal analysis you want to do, and I want to say I am not an expert in medium. Well, I am in medium term rentals. I've done a lot with that, but you're talking about like boarding house
I kind
level.
of want to get the
Yeah.
hate that this might obtain. I won't lie.
Okay.
I have
Highest and best use.
zero experience in commercial. I've got none. And so like this is going to be kind of, one of those videos that if it's going to get hate, this will get hate. And I'm okay with it. Like that's what I'm looking for because through
Okay.
that hate, you learn. Like you learn a lot by
Yep.
what people say
If
because
it's
you think
true.
of stuff that you don't think of, you miss stuff, especially readily admitting I am a novice. I'm as green as it gets. I am going back to square one when I started this business doing residential rehabs, and now I've done 100 of those. Well, I'm in the same boat. So I'm looking at the same data the same way. It's brand new, shiny eyes. Everything's perfect. And I know it's not that way. I got asked a question yesterday at one of my meetups that I hadn't even considered as a problem, so now I'm trying to figure out how that looks. And so like adding in, just various, changes, various, thought processes. And I've already met with a couple commercial people on this that put their 2 cents in and what their thoughts are. I've already looked into some of the regulations, things like that. So I've done a little bit of homework, but I feel like I'm just barely scratching the surface
Mhm.
on what that might look like, And so that's going to be the challenge that I kind of have to overcome.
Okay, we're gonna look through it together. I don't love the rent by the room strategy at all. I think, I mean, as a property manager, I'm speaking as a property manager. I know it's the hot chick on the corner right now, and everybody's running to it. But I manage a couple of these, and I'm just seeing a ton of vacancy. But I'm interested, especially as I told you on the phone. I think what you're telling me you're looking at is a former hotel, and you could potentially get hotel licensing, which I like that a lot because the less a hotel licensing is almost carte blanche. Okay, you can have any number of nights. Your licensure will not be removed. When you're looking at a short-term rental license or even a boarding house license, boarding house minimum 7 nights. I mean, there's a whole thing. So I have a lot of things I want to look up on the web, but I want to do that live with you. So for Mike, first show us the deal. What can you show us?
I can't show you much because I don't have the actual address of the property because while I was there, I was dumb enough to not write it down. And I can't figure out where the hell it's at. I've driven through town. I can't figure out the address. So I'm working on, I got to go back. I'm doing another deal in that town, multiple properties. And so I'm working another deal. So I got to go back. I've been back and forth out there a couple times now, but it's essentially a approximately 100 unit motel that is now condemned.
Okay.
Last purchased in 2021 for $1.2 million.
Wow.
Which for a hotel is fairly for a 100 unit hotel is fairly inexpensive.
Right.
That's a discount rate already. So it was most likely struggling at best at that point. It had been renovated to some extent in 2006, right before the market busted. And so, based on what I was able to find on some records on it, I actually was able to reach out to the county officials and ask about the property, and they knew it off the top of their head because, well, apparently they're out there making sure nobody's in it every week. Has some great things.
Really? Okay, it's
So.
interesting that you're using the word condemned because I've been speaking to one of our friends that you and I have in common that has a couple of properties in Brownsville that are now condemned.
Mhm.
And so this person is telling me, "Oh yeah, the city's going to buy them." And that's cool. I'm happy for this person, whatever, he can make money. But I went in and looked into the word condemned, and I think they're going to charge him I don't think he's going to make money. I think they're going to give him a bill. And I told this person that I said, here's
They
my,
do.
right. So I'm a little nervous, but anyway,
And they
condemned
bill
means,
expensive.
right. They saw it
So a
as a
basic board
positive,
up by the city, and this know this because I've had to
right.
pay the bill. A basic board up that usually costs me about $2,200. The city bills at $7,500.
To build, they charge you to board it up.
Oh yeah, they charge you 250 per lawn mowing. They charge you a pile of money unless they give you an actual contract to buy it. What they usually do is when they say they're going to buy it, they waive the fees that they've charged
Hmm.
you, and that is your purchase price.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I looked
So
it up and it said if it's condemned, it means you can't live in it, which I get
mhm,
that, duh. And it needs a significant rehab. But then if the city comes in and solves the problem, because I mean it's a blighted property, it is.
absolutely.
Both of them are, but we were speaking about one specifically. And I said, you know, hey, beware. I don't know that you want the city to be your buyer if they're going to drop you a bill, but I'm not sure. But
Yeah,
he
well, and
basically said it's
sometimes
the
the city,
land
what
value
they'll
minus the demo.
Yeah, so what they will do also is sometimes they will, for a condemned building, if they have, like here in Savannah, we have Rehab Savannah or whatever that charity is that, kind of goes in and specializes in rehabbing those communities with restored materials, things like that. Like if they've got a buyer in mind like that, like somebody's already kind of talked to the city about it, they will do some of that. I've seen some of that. That's usually, I know the properties you're talking about now on that scale's a little larger than they normally do. They're usually, single family, smaller homes that can be done at low cost to usually provide them back to the community at a fair price fairly quickly. I don't think that those properties have been in bad enough shape long enough to have been recognized by that particular type of organization.
Mm.
So I'm not going to kind of figure on that being the best use of space. Now, for this one being condemned, it's condemned for general misuse. Now, the thing about condemned is a lot of people don't realize, especially here in Savannah and other parts of Georgia, quite often condemned, you can condemn a house for not cutting the grass.
Mm.
Three code violations can lead to condemnation
Okay,
of
so
any
not cutting the grass equals no one can live there? Like your tenants would have to move
because
out?
you're in active violation of code. You get three warnings. They send a letter. They attempt to call any numbers on file. They attempt multiple times. This takes 6 months to a year. You get multiple warnings. I had a property that all day long should have been condemned. Should have had a big orange sticker on it. Never did. I had code enforcement on speed dial, and every time that they needed to call me, I'd answer the phone. I'd tell them what was going on. They had progress. They kept their file up to date. It never was condemned.
Okay.
It should have been. I mean, it was a hideous property, but we did the bare minimum to keep the code enforcement happy to prevent that problem.
Okay.
So property does not. It's got some issues that code enforcement's got problems with. Literally, to get it to code enforcement standards would probably about $8,000.
The hotel.
The hotel. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
8,000. Okay, just to get them off your back would be 8,000. You're saying you need
yeah.
to pay the fines and like clean up the
If a
exterior.
new owner takes possession of a property, depending on how they work with the city, this particular county is fairly low income, has very lax rules about a lot of stuff, which is also why I like this idea, because their rules on boarding houses, things like that, it's literally like a paragraph long. It's non-existent. Like
Okay.
look up the rules. It's very, and this is tier two communities tend to have less rules because they've had less problems, and so all the rules are made, laws are passed after a problem occurs. So basically, I would have to secure the facility, clean up the grounds, take away the fact that it looks abandoned, which honestly, getting the power turned on, getting the facility cleaned up, getting, the turned over paint cans, getting the ripped down blinds, the water damaged roof, getting this minor repairs done that need to be done to make it look cosmetically, all in all, probably end up painting the building. Later, but it would not be a requirement for condemnation removal.
Okay, so are you comfortable talking about the city? Like we're gonna pull comps
It's
and stuff. And
Yeah,
okay.
it's in Vidalia.
Okay.
Pulling comps on a commercial property, I've discovered, is extremely difficult because you don't value them the way you do a residential house. You value it based off of either current rents and incomes or potential rents and incomes. And so one of the things I've been looking at is potential values, things like that, kind of where I'm digging, because I learned this. I did try to comp a deal 3 years ago on a very large commercial space here in Savannah. That was my first dabbling into commercial, and it blew up on my face so bad because I just didn't understand the way the process worked. And I've learned a few things since then, and doing like the market caps, things like that. As I mentioned in that meeting you had about commercial real estate last week, I had one of the lowest market caps I've ever heard of, which was a 2% market cap. It was awful. It was absolutely terrible. And that's because there was no real data for this exact type of property. So one appraiser went with a average market cap at 7, and the other one went with a severely low market cap to be on the safe side, to really be safe on the deal. And the swing in value was $500,000,
Mhm.
and so that's something to consider. If I go, depending on what the strategy is on this, I think that the idea I'm looking at is more like the pad split business model. Okay. So, and the reason I'm looking into that, I've got multiple, being a franchise, I got the resources of a large franchise. So I've called multiple people in our group that has pad split. I know a guy that he has a dozen of them, absolutely loves them. He doesn't manage pad split, handles all that, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to be the big thing is Ironically, I have also reached out to my rep at Pad Split. I'm waiting on a call back to see if they can do something of this scale because they've never done anything this particular style.
And you
Yeah.
said 100 and how many rooms, Mike?
I think it's right around 100.
Gosh, I wish we could look at this property. So what are, I'm just thinking out loud, okay? That's what we're recording for, is we're just gonna get inside our
Yeah.
own little heads. So it's how many floors?
It's 2 stories.
Oh, so this is a spread out kind of a deal. Okay,
Yeah, it's
interesting. So
it's the old motel style, with
there an
the
elevator?
pre-pack unit, with the outdoor side door and the glass window up front, like your old Holiday Inn,
Okay.
like from
Is
the
there an
80s.
elevator or is it all
No,
stairs? No elevator. Wow.
no
Okay.
elevator.
Because I was just thinking,
And
again,
it's multiple buildings too. It's, 3 individual buildings.
okay. I keep
So,
circling back to the hotel idea because with zoning, first off, I want to say win for you is that it's already zoned commercial. That's huge.
mhm.
When you want to take a residential property and move it to commercial or vice versa, that's kind of tough. It's doable, don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
especially probably in these rural areas. But it's great that it's already commercial and it was previously, licensed as a hotel. And I'm almost wondering, to me, your biggest headache is number one, coming up with the cash to do all this. But let's say it's ready today. You need to fill that sucker up. And so I wonder if you might want to just go ahead and do like a hotel licensure and then do half of the property as more like a hotel and half as more like a boarding house extended stay pad split.
So
What are your
one of
thoughts
the
on
things that
that?
I looked at, I considered on that, and I did consider something like that. The thing is the hotel taxes are a lot higher than boarding room and standard rental rate taxes.
Okay. All
A
right.
lot higher, and you're paying per day, per night, per like. There's a taxes go up, and I didn't realize just how much. I learned a lot about hotels in the last week with
Okay,
that.
so what are the tax rates? I know hotel it's at least 7%, but what are we
Yeah,
talking for
and
boarding
and
house?
so what's that?
How much for a boarding house for
And
7 nights?
so your standard taxes on boarding houses, because they're longer term rental, there's 7 days or more, you're not paying your short term stay taxes. You're not paying, they don't have an STVR tax in this particular town. They don't have a lot of that stuff. Their zoning doesn't have anything for boarding houses, actually. They don't have a call out for boarding houses. And so,
Hang on. Let's look into this. This is important, okay? It's
yeah,
data is like we live and die by our data. So we don't want to make
absolutely.
assumptions. I'm going to share my screen. I am now paying for chat and I'm paying like whatever the big boy rate is. So, because I have a friend doing this, she's really a bad influence on me. So I'm spending the money and I can do deep research. So let's do this. What are the hotel tax rates versus boarding? Okay, let's just see what chat comes up with. Chat has sped me up so much when doing deal analysis. Okay, 8% on purchases. It is Toombs County. Okay, state tax is 4%. I didn't know that. 8% on lodging. It should, honestly, from my understanding, Mike, is it should be 30 days or less. It should be the same tax rate. That's the big reason I want to check this out. 5 per night stay motel hotel fee, which is separately listed and excluded from sales tax calculation. So lodging excise tax 8. Okay, so it's the same, which I kind of had a feeling. If they're staying less than 30 days, I don't think they're going to differentiate. At least that's what chat's doing. I can do a deep research. Do you want me to do a deep research on this?
I was digging into the actual code in Vidalia, what I was looking at their local zoning laws, the zonal rules. And so basically 7 nights or longer. Now, if the minimum stay is 7 nights or longer, which would be what we're looking at, they weren't looking at it as much as the hotel. Same thing as your midterm rental type taxes, what I was basically told.
Yeah, but that's 30 nights.
So
Okay, so I'm going to add in deep research for us, Mike. I want it to
yeah.
pull sources. Okay, so I put in there just to show you my prompt. I'm hearing that a boarding house has a lower rate since the minimum stay is 7 nights. Research this. So I'm doing a deep research is kind of a paid thing. So are you asking specifically about how the hotel tax is applied differently? Yes to both questions. This is such a powerful research tool. And now that I'm paying for it and I can use deep research as much as I want, it's been wonderful. Okay, so Mike, while that's going, I'm going to stop sharing. And so we need to know about the taxes. Okay, that really does up your price. Again, for the viewer, and this is in Georgia, but I think most places, once you hit 30 nights, there's no issue. So if you can
Yeah.
get Johnny to book
Well,
your
now I will
room.
say, remember how I was saying I wanted to do that 30 night rule where you could leave or you had to leave
Uh-huh.
that that room and move to another, cleanliness reasons, because I mean, I know the clientele we're going to be using. I was going to, those longer than 30 days, they would be required to change rooms, but because they're still on site, their lodging would not be qualified under it'd be the 30-day stay thing. And so, like, that's one of the other things that we looked at. So,
Okay, but this is one reason I want you to get a hotel license for it because, and I am not familiar with licensing. We'll do research on this. I'm not familiar
yeah.
with licensing on boarding houses. Okay, just caveat. I'll chat it if I need to. But with a hotel license, you can get them out for any reason. They don't actually get squatters' rights. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm going to keep pushing this on you. But I really like for you to get a hotel license on it for that reason alone. I know you're concerned about squatting, but as a property manager's perspective, for me to come in and go, Larry, you have to move. You've been here 29 nights. You got to move across the hall. Larry doesn't want to do that. That's kind of a management nightmare. So I'd rather
Yeah.
just get the licensing up front, have my rights, and that's my advice to you as your.
Well, yeah, and so what I'm looking at on that also is because it's already already was a licensed motel.
Mhm.
It may be one of those things that because one of the questions I hadn't thought of and I found out was it may be easier to list it as a motel extended stay only.
Yes.
Okay, 7 days or more. So that way, yeah, we can have that lower rate, but it's 7 days or more. Because we're looking at it, the way I'm looking at it is that we do this as a kind of a bridge the gap, low income housing type situation, because then it qualifies for certain tax breaks. It may qualify for certain grants and things like that, because it's targeted towards, especially in Vidalia, where it's a very agricultural community. You're going to have, your migrant workers, you're going to have your short term work, your
Right.
warehouse work, especially during onion season, so
That's
like
right.
these are the things exactly. Like our revenue season would be picking season largely, I mean, because I mean, who's gonna book a trip? As you said about Hinesville one time, who would book a trip to Vidalia, Georgia?
Well, a lot of people will text.
You asked that same question about Hinesville once. Who would book a trip to Hinesville, Georgia? And you laugh because not only did I have friends that did that, but I also got you tourist gear from there.
Right. Okay, so Mike, I'm starting a second deep research because deep research takes time. Okay. So I'm asking chat, how do motel work taxes work for extended stay hotels? I'm almost positive it's the same unless you hit 30
So
nights.
I'm looking at, so ironically, the funny story, the taxes aren't necessarily imposed by the county. They're Georgia State is what I'm
Right,
looking at.
5% of the
Yeah.
seven, 5% goes to the state. So
Yeah.
that's important. Like when you're doing due diligence, it's like you can talk to people, but like I want to see the laws. And that's why I really like the deep
Well, and
research.
that's what I've been digging into the last couple
Yeah.
of days is digging into what the laws are, how that plays into cash flow and
Mhm.
revenues, profitability, things like that.
Mhm.
Because if you're eating an additional 5 to 7% and your market cap's 7%, I mean,
Well, you're not eating it, they're paying it. You know what I mean? Like they're paying
well,
it, you're
yeah.
giving it away. But like I run a lot of hotels, right? I run a whole ton of short-term rentals and we do a lot in the medium-term rental space. But if the guest books initially for 30 nights or more, we do not charge or collect tax. So that's where you just incentivize them and just say, hey, your price goes down by 7% if you
Well,
book.
and that's kind of what I was looking at, that bridging. Remember how I said that lower rate? I think that's where that comes in more so
Right.
than the minimum 7 day will have the just shy. I'll be a low end hotel price,
Right.
and then we actually want to encourage that 31-day stay.
Right.
Whereas at 31 days, you may move rooms, but we've got, because we want rotation. We at that clientele, if you got them staying there that long, knowing that in advance, we want that room inspected. We want that room cleaned because you know what happens with low end clientele after 30 days. They can
Mhm.
really do a lot of damage in a month.
You can go in and clean it every 30 days. That'd be a lot easier than moving them.
I've thought about that, but you know what pops into my head?
What's that?
Bed bugs.
That's very easily preventable. We have protection measures that we put on everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at your low end motels.
Okay, but if you're moving Larry from room to room to room, and he does bring in bed bugs, you're literally spreading that around. But if you use different mattress encasements and other measures, I mean, you can just
And we
prevent it.
would, I mean, we'd have all those measures in place. But the thing is when I look at it, is if we move them, we're going to identify bed bugs sooner, when we go in to do that work. And you might be right on that cleaning idea. Just go in and clean it, inspect it, and that's kind of where I'm looking at. I also had something brought up because of the size of the room, it may not be beneficial. So somebody asked me, because there's no pass-through rooms, right? What about splitting, or or actually turning it into 50 rooms, punching a hole through
Hmm.
and creating more of an apartment style, on some of the units or maybe the whole damn building. And so you've got a 600 square foot apartment, one bedroom, one bath apartment, with a living and kitchen. So that's another thing. Like I've kind of started diving a little deeper because they said, hey, your standard hotel room is 300 square foot. Even at low income, they don't want to be stuffed in that cramped little space. How can you make that into that standard small size apartment, one bed, one bath apartment,
You're cutting your revenue in half, though. I'm not convinced that you're going to make double just for them to have a living space.
And
The
I agree
clientele
on
you're
that.
talking,
So
they
I
just need a
remember
place
how
to
you said
stay.
YouTube some videos. I did a lot of that. I've done some digging into some stuff I hadn't thought about. These are some of the issues that have popped up, have been mentioned by other people that have either done something similar. I haven't found anything exactly what I'm looking at to do, but they've done something similar, either the way it played out or what challenges they came into. One of them, the biggest challenge was after the fact, once they got everything operating, and it was a much smaller unit, and we were at 25, the crime problem got so bad in that particular place. Now, I kind of preempted that. The cop in me basically already has said, okay, this thing's got a big lobby. There's a perfect place for a desk that a police officer from town can come and work at when he's not busy. If he needs somewhere to just sit and talk to or just chill out, air conditioned space to sit, internet's free, and a patrol car parked out front, it deters a lot. That and the amount of cameras I would put on this facility would be disgusting. You would not be able to commit a crime
And
without
in the
half the
halls.
county knowing. So
Are these exterior entries or interior entries?
exterior
Okay,
entries.
that's great, Mike.
And so it's one of those
My
things.
recommendation is leave it 100 something rooms. Like,
My personal gut, I think the 100 rooms is what works
mhm.
best.
If you were
The
trying to
only
make
other
it high end, I would agree with you. Yeah, let's cut the room size down. Now we're going to double the rent and then double the size of the apartment. I don't
Yeah.
see that happening here.
I agree. And so like that was one of the things so say we get this thing done, and I'll be honest with you, the initial project is only going to be about 30 rooms, first
Mhm.
building. Do
Mhm.
it one building at a time,
Yep.
actually get the first project done. It'll be the first 10 rooms downstairs, easy access, get them going. Next 10 rooms will be the rooms directly above those, and then work our way through the building. And so that way we can get proof of concept, we can get occupancy, before we go spend, $3 million and find out that it's not going to turn enough revenue.
Mhm.
We spend, half a million and know exactly what our revenue numbers look like.
So, okay, so revenue is huge. So we've got deep research going for our taxes, but like, what are you seeing for revenue? And let's go in and fact check that. What do you think it's going to bring in a room per night, per
So,
month?
so my goal was, like I said, this was kind of low income housing, kind of transitionary housing idea was my original goal. And so I put a number on there. My very first number was $100 a night. That made, or $100 a week. That the numbers on that just didn't even come to add up. Pushed it to 150, end up that is my bare minimum to make a profit.
150 a week?
A week. Now, that being said, that would be the rate if you stayed 60 to 90 days at this point. Okay. Because me and you discussed this. You're like, this seems low. You're right. If you're staying 60 to 90 days, I predict that revenue, it's 150 a night. That's my now. If you are 30 to 45 days, now you're at 200 to 225 a week. And then your 30 days or less is at the standard hotel rate around 270 in that area a week, 260.
A week. Okay, wait, I gotta write this down. Hang on. I gotta stay up with you. So I gotta run this. So you're saying 150 a week.
For 60 to or 60 days or more, or 61 days or more.
I would specify 30. Just
Well, no. So 30 to 60 days will be 200 a week.
okay.
So 31 to 60 days will be 200 a week. 61 to 90 days or more will be 150 a week.
But like you're not gonna take payment up front. So
So
I'm
Pad
just to
Split
keep
does
it
this.
simple, stupid. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna
Pad
all
Split
book
does
for
this.
69 days and then they're gonna bail on you. Like this is low end housing. What's the plan for that?
So Pad Split does something like this on some of the platforms, and so they do that because you're in an agreement. You're in a contractual agreement, same thing that I'm looking at. And so you're basically the way they get around some of the local rules on this. And I'm like I said, I've put my call out to my rep at Pad Split, and I'm waiting for a call back now to kind of figure out how that would look. And so because they do solid rate, they don't do discount rates. Reason being, some of these, say insurance claim, emergency housing, Red Cross, things like that, they will pay up front. We've gotten that check
Right.
before. Those are more likely to be our 60 to 90-day booking properties anyway.
Not
So
in a low income situation, though. Those guys usually want the nicest stuff. What's your weekly rate for less than 30 nights?
that'll be I think it's the average right now is 268 from what I was seeing
Okay.
for
So
low
I'm
low
going to
end.
share my screen again. Let's get the research going, okay? I want to know. So we're still deep research is still rolling here. Let's see. Okay, we're done. I'm going to caveat that. So extended stay lodging tax exemptions. Let's see. Ordinances. I need to summarize this. All short-term lodging stays less than 30 days are subject to hotel motel. So there's no exception.
Yeah, that's what I found when I was doing my digging through Georgia.
Okay, so let's start a new deep research. Where are you, chat? This is my new thing I'm obsessed with, Mike. I'm going to show you Whisper. I'm looking at a boarding house in Vidalia, Georgia. Please look up nightly and weekly rates for less than 30 nights, greater than 30 nights, and greater than 90 nights. I want you to use different research and sources like Airbnb, PadSplit, Zillow, anything you can find for me. Ask me any question you need to clarify. I'm done typing. It's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to do deep research and let's start this one going. Let's see what it asks me. What type of, okay, that's a good question. One, private rooms, two, furnished, three, no kitchen. What are you thinking, Mike? It's like
Oh
a
my
hot plate, right?
crud. I've been telling you 260. It is 460. I just looked at my damn notes.
Okay, say
460 a week.
for less than 30 nights.
Yeah, it's
460.
460.
Okay, that's okay. Hey, Mike, as far as the kitchen, we're gonna do like a fridge, microwave, and hot plate.
Fridge, microwave, and your most hated device because you don't know how to use it, an air fryer. We don't want to provide heat to a room because
Can you
that's
make
how you burn it.
can you do popcorn in an air fryer? Just curious.
I don't know if you can do popcorn in an air fryer. I've never tried it. Might be something I have to look up. Yeah, you can cook a meal in an air fryer. I won't lie, I've done it.
Great. Okay, I'm saying they can look at licensed and unlicensed sources is fine because whatever. What
Yeah.
occupancy? I want to know what occupancy for extended stay hotels near Vidal. Yeah. Okay, come on, deep research. Let's see if it has any more questions for
Yeah,
us.
because I'm
Okay, we're
finding shared
started.
rooms, like shared homes in that area for 350, which is not what it'll be. It'll be private. So
Right. Oh, should I say? Oh, I can't say that now. But I
yeah,
did say I said private room rates in Vidalia,
yeah.
Georgia. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so I'm looking at rates somewhere, in the low fives,
okay.
and so knowing that, kind of tracking based on that, looking at low fives for the less than 30. And so that's what so my notes, these were my initial notes. I've got some more
Okay.
advanced stuff that I made. So so it was basically the tiers were going to be the four, I think it was 464, I think it was. 275 would be the 60 to 90, and actually I think the 150 is actually 183 for.
Okay. I'm adjusting my notes. That's fine. That's where it's great to talk to people and ask, but like I
Yeah, because
love,
I had a meeting last week where somebody said, "Hey, look at the local motel rates,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
And see where they're at."
Right.
And I did, and I was like, "Holy God!" Because I remember an extended stay used to cost me 179 a week, back when I did some contract work. That doesn't exist anymore. Hell, the chain that used to do that has gone out of business. They're all different things
Yeah.
now.
Before you put money on this, we need to understand what is occupancy, what are the nightly rates, how much money are you most likely to earn? And that dictates your offer price, which I still encourage you to cut in half. But
Oh, well, my offer price I'm somewhere in the residential real estate market for my offer
good.
price because it is distressed.
Right.
It is in rough shape. It does need a couple $1 million,
It does.
And
It does.
so I have to be able to provide a deal investors like. It's going to have to be some sort of syndication or some sort of creative financing idea where I can bring investors on because it does not make sense if the money doesn't, if you can't profit,
Right. That's where having all this ChatGPT inspired research that's actual, right? That helps you raise money. I mean, this is so important. It's great to talk to people and have an idea, but you're going to have
Well,
to
and
show people numbers.
I was also asked the other day, and simply because of scale of it, what if I can locate a smaller unit and do it with a smaller property with lower input costs initially and proof of concept it into something bigger? So that might actually be I'm looking so in the 25 unit range for that concept. See how I can make that work.
But will this still be there? I mean,
Probably not but it's
Right.
one of those that I learned a long time ago. It's better to pass on a deal that's bad than to buy a bad deal and try to make it good. I mean, how many times have you seen investors try to force a deal, make the numbers work to make the deal happen and regret it every day that they owned it? And say, we've both done it. I mean, anybody that has done any type of investing, any type of serious investing, more than, 30, 40 deals where they actually have skin in the game. I'm not talking about these a-holes that are assigners that say, oh, I've done 1,000 deals. Well, you've never had skin in the game. You've never taken any real risk. These people like you and I that buy property, actually do rehabs, actually put our money where our mouth is. Every one of us that has done this type of stuff, we've done a deal where we're like, we can push the numbers here. The rehab won't be so bad. I never say that anymore.
But with this deal, it's so big and it's not close to you either. This is like an hour and a half, I'm assuming, for both of us. And like this is where I've gotten in trouble too, is when I've come in and gone, oh well, everyone else failed, but I can do better. I'm smarter, I'm this, I'm that. I still wish I would have. And the other thing is when I did a project like this previously, there were no comps at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only thing for miles. And so I had a hard time pulling numbers. I honestly wish I would have gone in and been at half. I think whatever number we come up with, I think you need to cut it in half. And if you can't get it at that price, run. Because
So
with it being your first time,
one of
ugh.
the things I'm looking at, like I said, I sat down in the last week. I've met with some commercial brokers. I've met with some people. I've gotten a lot of good information. I got one. He goes, I've never done a hotel, but I know the first thing you should do with a hotel is run. That's what he said. So
Yeah.
I laughed, and he goes, but I'm going to do some research. I want to reach out to some friends, and I've got another meeting with him later this week. But he's like, the first thing I know about hotels is run. If you don't do hotels, they can be a real nightmare. But he is deeply intrigued by my concept
Okay.
because it does apply. It does work well. And the other thing he suggested, Mike, instead of doing it in a tier two community, why don't you find a tier one community that has one of these properties? They've all got one that's just super
Mhm.
sketchy, but the person won't let it go or whatever it is. Find that one.
Richmond
And
Hill has one. Okay,
I
but here's
mean,
the next question then, Mike, because Vidalia is small. If the viewer or listener is not familiar, I don't see the need of a 100-room hotel in Vidalia. I think this mixed use, not mixed use, but like this extended stay, like lower end housing, I can see where that would work well, to be honest with you, because we do have a lot of farm workers out there. There are
mhm.
some festivals and things, but people are not saving up their money to go on vacation to
Well, and
Vidalia.
that's the
It's
thing. There are
not.
plenty of motels and hotels in Vidalia. There's a
Yeah.
ton of them. Hell, there's one right next door, brand new, which I literally think drove this one out of business.
Okay, but is it
You could
close to
look
the
at this one on the
freeway?
street.
What other things does it have going for it? Is it
Oh, it's
close to
right
the
on the main
freeway?
drag. It's on the 4-lane highway right through the
Okay,
middle of Vidalia. It's right there. It's in the middle
okay,
of town. It does have, location. You can walk to, I mean, there's a Mexican restaurant in the parking lot.
I like that.
Like there are things there. It's nearby things. But the reason I don't want to look at it as a motel is there is a ton of competition in the motel space in that town. For the town it is, I'm amazed at the number of motels and hotels that are there.
Really?
Oh
Okay.
gosh, there's a bunch of them. Probably a dozen and a half for Vidalia.
Okay, speaking of which, again, back on the research, we're still doing our deep research, but let's look. Let me just do a Google search. Extended stay hotel, Vidalia. Let's just see what we come up with. Home two suites Vidalia. That's going to be higher end. Let's see. We have Clarion, Home two suites, Econo Lodge. Wow, there are a lot already. And I have to say, I'm a little nervous. Look at this. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven is what I'm seeing. We're seeing 81 a night, 142. Okay, these are not what I would call a true extended stay, though. This says vacation rental. Oh gosh. Americ Inn by Wyndham, Oak Pine River House. I don't know what that is. I think some of these are short-term rentals.
In the off season, I've got a hotel that offers it's a days in at 49 a night.
Econo Lodge is at 59 a night. Okay, holy cow. So let's just play with this. I love looking at other people's calendars. So let's go tonight through checking out Sunday, next Sunday. I think is it 7 nights? I think so. It went down to $64 for me. Thank you, Econo Lodge.
Yeah, I've got the Super 8 by Wyndham
Okay.
at 45 a night in
Okay.
the off season. Now I'm telling you, in the off season. So this is mid-January when nobody's going to Vidalia.
476 total for one night, for 1 week. And you
Yeah,
said
464.
468. Okay. So I like that just based
Yeah,
on I think this is a decent comp, although I have to tell you, Mike, Econo Lodge has the name
it does.
recognition and you aren't. So I would even drop it at least 10% from there. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to
Yeah.
compete on
Well,
price.
and the thing is what I think that what's being lost here is the goal is not for the motel side. I won't lie. Like this is
No, no,
not.
but extended
Yeah.
stay. Extended stay
Yeah.
is what
And
I'm going.
so like I think and more of what I'm looking at is the pad split mentality. These are,
Okay.
young professionals. These are people that may be traveling, they may be and they're there for months, divorcees, guys just getting a divorce. I mean, I'm experiencing how much that affects your life. A lot of times they struggle with housing, do a lot of couch surfing, roommating, things like that. This may be an option for them to not have to go into the roommate situation. And so an insane alimony payment, you may be able to swing a, $600 to $1,000 a month payment versus your average rents right now. Rents are high enough now that I think that this becomes attractive simply for the fact that it's not full scale rent.
So we have three zip codes, 3043. I can't even find it on Pad Split, Mike.
It's
30.
not. It's not on Pad Split. You will not find it on Pad Split. That's why I had to call my rep. They're gonna run. They're gonna give me an idea of analysis.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's pulling me to Atlanta, which it's nowhere
yeah.
near
That's
Atlanta.
our nearest. It's there or Jacksonville. It's your only two options that you can pull from right now.
Well,
Actually, I
don't
don't
they
even
have
see the.
Savannah?
You can't see the Savannah data. We're not big enough yet that I know of. So that looks like
Here's
maybe.
16, finally.
Yep. I'll be honest with you. The thing about Pad Split because we have our own rep through the franchise, and
Okay.
so they've been trying to break into Savannah for 4 years with me, but we've never analyzed a property that worked. You're all the way to Savannah now. You've overshot.
Meldrum, Black Creek. I'm just trying to find Vidalia. I can't
Go
even
left.
find
Go
it.
left. Right.
Claxton.
There's Claxton down to the left. Straight to the left. Keep going
Where?
left. Go left. There's Lions. Vidal is next to the Lions.
Toombs. That's Toombs County for sure. Where's Vidalia? There it is. Holy guacamole.
And
Let's check
so
on
when you look
our boarding house rates. Let's see. Okay, Mike, we have some answers for you. 60 to 100 per night, weekly 120 to 150 per week, low cost shared housing models. Wow, that's low. And then an Airbnb or private home is 350 to 500. That's pretty low, Mike. But I do think we need to let's just play with our numbers. So let's just say 120 a week. And how many units?
about 100.
Okay, and let me see what occupancy is. Hang on one second. 55% occupancy. Help me do the math. I have a 100 unit extended.
So it gets you five. Well, it gives you 343 two in annual revenue at 55%. $120 times 100 nights or 100 units at 55% occupancy for a year.
What, just give me a low ball. What is your offer price plus your rehab budget? Do you have that together yet?
So I'll be honest with you. I would not be even interested in an offer anything north of 600K.
I think you're overpaying.
And so, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not even interested in making an offer anything north of 600K. I think that number goes down further as we determine actual condition of property. I mean, due diligence on this property would take me probably 3 months simply because of the fact that it's abandoned, how damaged it is, getting, actual numbers on rehab. I have reached out to my contractor. He'd be interested in getting me bids together. Just assuming that you're going to spend $10,000 per room. Okay. It's paint, flooring, fixtures, probably new tubs just because, well, this place was not well maintained.
I would rip out the tubs. I would rip out the tubs.
That's what I'm saying. Probably new tubs, new surrounds. So you're probably looking at about $10,000 per room,
Mhm.
just standard, So you're looking at $1 million just in room upgrades because you're going to probably put a new PTAC in it, which is $2,500, $2,800, per unit. Bathroom, flooring in the damn thing is only $1,500, $1,700 or small. You've got, painting a room that size is, maybe 800 to $1,000 if you get your standard crew doing the whole damn thing. And then just kind of rolling through the numbers, you're probably right 10,000, even go high and say 15,000 per room, you're at 1.5 million. So honestly, being in that thing for $2 million,
All right, let's look at that. Let's do the math. It's all about the math. All right, so you're telling me a 600,000 offer price? I'm gonna cut that in half, Mike.
well, that was my maximum. Even before I even ran basic numbers, my maximum was 600K.
I'm gonna offer 300,000. I'm expecting to spend 1,500,000 to rehab. Projected gross revenue is 343,200. What cap rate would I achieve? This has sped me up running numbers like you would not believe. It used to take me hours to do deal analysis, and now I can do it. Well, I'm slowed down by the deep research. Okay, purchase price of 300 and 1.5 million, 19%. That does not suck, Mike. I like my purchase price better than yours. Very strong cap rate. They typically run 8 to 12. The other thing is your operating efficiency is going to matter. Like if you're pulling in 343, you're going to actually pull in probably 120, 150. Just a heads up. But I like this. I like it at those numbers.
So here's the problems that I identify already.
Okay.
Okay. If I go to that 343 number, okay, say 55% occupancy, that's the number I'm saying, right? Okay, the mortgage payment on that's going to be 14.5, including taxes and insurance estimated, right? Just rough numbers. Say 15 grand for mortgage.
Okay,
Well, that's giving you
hang on, let
28.
me math this up. So 343 divided by 2. Hang on. 343 400 divided by 2. I'm going to call that your net. And then tell me the payment
Hold on. No, no, no.
divided by
The
12.
343.2 is the 55% occupancy. That's the number. The
That's the
actual number is like
gross
60.
though, but you've got
Yeah.
operational expenses. You're gonna have staffing.
Well, and here's where we start running into problems because I'm looking at if I take 342 or 340, whatever the hell my number was, divide that up by a month, it's 28.6 a month. If you're already eating a mortgage payment of
That's
14,
gross though. Your net is about 14,308 after expenses.
yeah, well, that's why we're going to run through expenses. That's going to be the problem. You're looking at 14.5 for just mortgage payment,
Mortgage.
right? So there's half of your 28.6 a month that you're going to have for gross. You've got a manager on site, which currently is going to cost you about $6,000 a month. Maintenance, is probably going to be 5 to 7%.
Utilities.
So
Don't forget utilities, taxes.
utilities. Here's the thing. And I did something crazy this morning. I asked my commercial real estate agent or real estate insurance agent what she thinks rates are. Looking at some of those rates ranges right now, and we can be eating $12,000 a month in insurance alone. That's the high side.
Yeah, we're not buying this deal, Mike.
I'm looking at like the numbers are on this are not looking great. Now that is low side, but that's where you want to plan your numbers. Like you always want to plan for worst case scenario, so I'm looking at, based on taxes, insurance, utilities, because you're looking at upwards of $10,000 a month in utilities, power and water, for 100 units.
That feels a little high for me.
I
My
always
purchase price is
estimate my
now
expenses
100 grand,
high.
probably 99,000 purchase price. And I agree with you where we just rehab a building at a time. Like you can't drop 1.5 out the gate. You'd have to
Well,
have prove a concept to spend any more. I would do one building and then
yeah, and so what I'm looking at on that is if you look at the costs of not only, and I always estimate my costs high, utilities and
yeah.
all that, rehab, I always estimate much higher than it usually comes out. Simply, I've stuck my hand in the fire before and it burns, and I don't like to do that. Looking at like the basics of it, this would be a tough deal to kind of work. And so it's going to be a big question that I'm going to have with Pad Split. What do they think a unit like this, because they've got some experience in tier two markets, what do they think a unit like this would be able to get and their occupancy? Because the last time I did an occupancy rating like this, I had something in the neighborhood of, I think it was 59%. Pad Split had actual data concepts at 78%. And that 20% makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so, my personal maximum on occupancy is 70% in a place like this. I won't go above 70% simply because you just never know. But they had it at 78%, which, with those numbers and that particular deal that person did was not entirely like this. They took a commercial space and turned it into a bunch of pad split houses with a communal kitchen and communal baths. Like you went into you had one area of bathrooms and you had like 10 bathrooms and you had one kitchen for like a row house of like an interior motel type
Okay.
setup. And so and
Old
their
school with no
rating was
bathrooms in the room, huh? That's
no bat. Yeah, it was communal bathrooms, and because it was originally like an office or a warehouse or something, they converted into pad splits.
okay.
And so I've also reached out to see if I can get that person's information because that might be the closest thing to what I'm looking at, So I'm hoping that my rep will get back to me today because I think that having that data, they've done this stuff or something close might be somewhere where we can, okay, this is how we make that work, because they told me 2 years ago that their minimum rent per room per night or per week was usually about $130 to $150 2 years ago. And that, I mean, when we had one quoted, actually Bowden Street quoted, it was quoted $170 a night per room or a week per room, but we just didn't see the value in it at the time. So Plus, Bowdoin got really good renters, so.
I mean, just 120 a week. That's brutal, Mike. I don't love it. Like you've got to cut your numbers somewhere else. So I'm okay. So I want to talk rehab just really quick. Structurally, is it structurally sound?
Oh, it's solid.
What
Can't say
about it's cement? It's
it's
brick
brick exterior, I believe.
or block?
Brick or block concrete. It's
What about the windows?
actually the windows are in great shape. The doors are in great shape. Ironically, I think that the '06 rehab did that. The PTAC units are the worst thing. The air conditioning
Explain
unit.
what that is. I'm not really with you on that.
You know, your hotel air conditioner unit, the one in the wall.
Oh, the split. It's like a mini split. I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're called PTAC.
How much are those?
Those can run depending on the size of them. They run between $2,000 and $3,000 a piece now.
Really? That's the
Yeah,
same. Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be your highest cost. Is
Per
that
room, yes. That's
because
what I said earlier. My third of my budget goes just to the PTAC, and say we can get somebody in there to paint it, those rooms are going to paint. I mean, you're going to paint a room a day, actually, probably 2 rooms a day at that size, 300 square foot. That's a bedroom. So say we go in and we put in, new tub and surround, friggin' new vanity.
I would do a pan and tile surround is what I would say.
Well, so the reason I'm looking at, well, yeah, I've looked at both tile and or surrounds are tile no matter what. There's a reason hotels do tile surrounds, and one is they are easier to maintain long term. They look better, a bunch of reasons. But so like tile surrounds are kind of the given, and you're looking at about $700 per surround, based on the one I just did. You're looking at $700 per times for each room. You're looking at, $1,500 for flooring. You're looking at, because the flooring I use in my residential properties is actually commercial grade. So you're looking at $1,500 in flooring. You're looking at 2,500, 3,000, so say 4,500 between the flooring and the PTAC, 1,500 for the room paint. So you're at 6K.
Six. Okay. And
Uh,
then you're gonna need some appliances and mattresses.
Furnishings, I'm figuring. Actually, I think that's going to be my biggest expense between the bed frames, and all that. You're probably looking $3,000 to $4,000 per room.
No, I don't think so. Okay, wait. I gotta write this down. So 6K for the rehab itself, and
Yeah.
then
Oh
the
no,
bed.
add in 1,000 for the tub and surround.
I thought that included that.
Add in 1,000 for tub and surround, and then a vanity that's got the large sink vanity that every hotel room back then had. And so some of them have been ripped off the wall. So we'd have to
How much
do
is that
probably, I'd say, $1,000.
for a vanity?
Well, it's not an actual vanity. It's mostly just a piece of granite mounted to the wall, and it's got to be commercial grade. So that's part of the problem.
Oh, that's fair. Okay. And then we need basically a fridge, an air fryer, and what was the other thing?
Which the whole combo is probably 400 or $600. A microwave, a air fryer, and the fridge, probably $600. A dresser of some nature, probably another $400 to $600 for something that'll hold up.
Okay, 400
And
for a
then
dresser. The bedding, like a mattress you can probably get for like, I don't want to guess. Let me look on Amazon. But I love those mattress in a boxes, mattresses
I
on
won't
Amazon.
lie, I just bought a Casper myself, and I absolutely love the damn thing, and it was $500.
Queen mattress. 315.
I mean, and honestly, if you call
Comes with
Casper and
300
said I need
bucks.
100 of them, I'm willing to bet there'd be a deal.
Yeah, that's fair. We're just running our numbers high because there's going to be other stuff. So
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. Holy cow, 10,000 a room.
And I figured 10 to 15,000. At 15,000, it's 1.5 million. At 10,000, it's a million, so it's a $500,000 swing. Now, if we were to do, a $15,000 rehab, what's that entail? Do I have to do anything further? Do I upgrade lighting, or do I upgrade, something else in there? Like, do we have an issue that pops up? I already know the laundry room is toast, so there may be, $20,000 to get the laundry room back up to snuff.
Tell me
So
about the seller. Do we have an option for creative financing here?
I am reaching out.
Where can we get more
So
money?
it looks like it's been bought multiple times through different LLCs. The current one, it looks like they were managing from halfway across the country and not managing well.
What?
So I know, shocker. So I'm actually trying to reach out and get in contact with this individual now to see what is stuck on, because maybe we can do an owner finance where we pay him $1 million for it in 25 years, but
My offer is still 99,000, Mike, but my thought is like, dude, I will take this. I'm just taking it off your hands and I'm gonna lease to own it and I'll do a balloon. I'm gonna hand you 10 G's now and I'm gonna hand you
yeah,
89 in 12 months and
yeah.
kind of a
Well,
take
and that's the thing. Like, I
scenario.
think that from the looks of the sale, I believe it's some sort of exchange, maybe 1031 exchange or something like that. Yeah, it looks, there's something weird about deed on it or the paperwork on it.
Hmm.
And so it looks unique. So I don't know if it was distressed when he bought it, what was going on. There's something weird about the initial deal. And it may just be it's commercial. I'm not used to looking at them. I can look at a residential deal all day long, and it's you've got a little bit more experience in commercial than I do, but there's some weird stuff going on. It may actually be a creative financing deal where he bought it. I don't know yet. So I'm still trying to dig into the owner. I haven't been able to get in contact with him. I've been attempting to for about a week now. And owners, they can take, months to get through to, and then you
But
never
this
know.
guy has to be bleeding on fines, utilities. I don't know if he's probably not even paying utilities, but just
Nope, power's
taxes.
off, water's off.
Okay.
Bleeding on taxes and fines. And taxes are it's actually called code enforcement. He told me what they were, but I can't really quote.
Ballpark it. 10,
Yeah, it
20.
was like 8 or 10 grand a year. So
Okay. So it's not,
it's not insane.
insurmountable, but
Not in our line of work. There's some deep numbers, and like I said, I'm working through like what that's going to look like, worst case, what's that going to look like, best case, and kind of strategy on it. It's one of the reasons why I was trying to avoid the hotel motel stuff because I would like to avoid that tax rate, and
you're
so
not
that,
paying that. Like that's not an expense to you. That's an
yeah,
expense to the guest. So to me, the taxes, I mean, Savannah charges a 15% tourist tax. Do I stress
yeah,
about it? No, I don't pay it. And people that want to come here, they pay it or they don't, but they're not
yeah.
coming unless they pay it.
Well,
So
and the reason being is I'm not wanting this as a hotel. I want this as a short term, like honestly more of a medium term kind of
okay.
transitionary housing type situation. Like I want this to be available, and this is going to sound terrible. There are people getting out of rehab. You're people doing transitionary labor, lower class, like the people that
Yeah,
are truly struggling with the current rental market. That's the goal. And honestly, we may actually see revenue through grants and through
that'd be good.
specialty programs because of that. So that's the other thing I'm looking at is what programs would be out there to kind of provide backup funding for this type of situation where, okay, we're going to provide, 60% of our housing to low income. I mean, it may actually qualify for some conditions of Section 8 for emergency housing. So,
I'm about to start another deep research, Mike, because you just got me going on something. Because I like the hotel thing. I don't give a flip about the taxes at all, but I like the hotel things because of your rights as the owner, you can get them out. But now that I think about it, sometimes there are rules that if you have a hotel license, they can't stay longer than 30 nights, which I understand you want them to do that. So let me do another deep research now on that because we want to know. Hang on
I don't know of
once.
any rules in Vidalia because actually one of the things I pulled up specifically stated it didn't matter the length of the stay over 30 days. It was just under 30 days it mattered. But that's just one thing I pulled up. So
Okay, I'm doing just a quick search right now because I have seen hotel laws where because it's a hotel, you can't stay longer. Let's see. No restrictions on the length of stay. Okay, so that's again why I'm going to go back and say you need to get that. If you're concerned about stayovers, you need the hotel licensing because that protects you. There's no eviction process because of your hotel licensure. If they're staying more than 30 days, they're not paying taxes. I would just ignore the taxes. It's literally a wash.
yeah.
Your capabilities as the owner of an operator of a hotel are massively different if you have that hotel licensure. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and so like I'm looking at it, my goal is not for the short stays. Like I really don't want that 7 day stay. I'm actually trying to discourage that. My goal is for the 60 or more day as a transitionary housing. And honestly, I'm kind of basing it off of some previous friends and family that have done the motel life, where that was the only housing they could find to
Yeah.
get themselves. And so, like, knowing that, like, what's that going to look like on how do we get that in place that you can pay it on a Taco Bell salary? And so that's another thing. This thing's located between multiple fast food restaurants, low income jobs. Like, those are my target market. I just got out of prison for X and I need a place to stay. Like, these are not I'm going to qualify for a rental house tomorrow people. And which is
Right.
hence why I want the access to cameras and police because it has a very high likelihood for crime. Absolutely understand that. So it will not be family friendly because we will have the chance of having, criminal, and I understand that as well. And so I've got to figure out just the basics on that. So, and there literally will have to be a waiver when you move into the property stating that this is a known fact. That's kind of where I'm looking at it for is more of the longer, like the transitionary housing. It may be that you move in there for a year while you get your back on your feet, while you get a good job or get a car, or while you get that. I mean, you just got out of prison for 9 years. You have no work history, no car, no credit, no any of it. And so, how does somebody step up from that? Quite often, we see them living in the squares here in Savannah. This is the idea. The concept is to give them an option that can transition them to something. And honestly, I would like to get with some of those local social services and see about getting transitionary programs where they can get assistance on site to help them move into that next stage, help them get a credit report set up or get that stuff to move them on to that, single family rental or that, apartment. So like that's kind of the concept is what I'm looking at. So,
The concept is great, but we have to make a profit to stay in
oh,
business. And
absolutely.
that's why this hotel keeps going out. And as your friend, my advice is don't touch this with a 10-foot pole unless you can get it at that $300 a week rate. And I'm not convinced you can get it. So
Yeah.
until you can be convinced of that, I would leave this where it lies. I wouldn't actually waste too much more time on it unless I really believe I can do, because 120 a week, that's not going to cut it. It's just
No,
not.
and so and that's one of the things. I even my bare minimum numbers on the lowest end was 150. Like that was the scraping by. Like it is only moderately disgusting at that point. And so like I've never looked at anything below 150
You're
because it
saying
just
150 a night, or I
a
mean a
week,
week?
a week, yeah. And so the
But at
reason
one,
being,
you won't even cover the debt at 150 a week.
and well, the thing is at 150 a week, well, it covers the debt. It makes zero profit. You're going on an equity play at that point. And so hoping that your government tax or your tax breaks and things like that will make it prof or not profitable, just break even. Because you look at, your low end rental rate in that area, one bedroom, one bath studio is 600 a month, which is at 150. So that's where I started that rental rate at. And even at that number, it's really not profitable.
So your gross now is 35,750, okay? And then taking out expenses, we're going to divide by two. Just plan on it. We're at 17. And
Mm-hmm.
you said your estimated debt service was what, 16?
14.5.
I mean,
So
there's just not a lot of room in there to put money aside for emergencies, which are definitely going to happen.
well,
Insurance, like,
yeah, and so part of that, like I said, part of this is going to rely on what availability would be to tax breaks, tax incentives, because a lot of these communities, Savannah has one. I actually looked one up. There are tax breaks, tax incentives for low income housing, things like that. So some of it would actually rely on qualifying for, some of these tax breaks, some of these, government assistances, things like that. And like I said, this is not the ideal deal. This is one of those ones where you would have to go in and instead of it being, that $10,000 target rehab budget, you want to figure out how you can save $600 per property per room because that adds up. That's $60,000 that you just saved per for the property. And so like these are the things. This is one of those deals that you have to be spot on the numbers. Like I said,
and
this may be
conservative.
above my pay grade right now, and I'm okay with that. I think as a concept going forward, like how do I, make that or how do I make that pitch? Like I said earlier, on a smaller project, where do we make those numbers work on something small as a concept? Show how it can work in a tier one community, and then spread it through a couple of tier ones, proof of concept, and then into a tier two, tier three.
Mike, we'll have to end for today, but I mean, let us know what happens. I'm very cautiously pessimistic. I'm not
Yeah.
even
Well, and that's the
optimistic.
thing. Like as an investor, like I've looked at the numbers and on a unit like this, unless you can pay cash and be in all cash, servicing a debt on that would be very difficult. And so like I was saying earlier, this may be not the deal, and I'm okay with that. I looked at it. The more I've looked at it, the harder it looks like it might be at this scale. Like I said, I spoke to a couple people this week and they said, hell, why don't you start with like 25, like one of the small motels, see if you can do a proof of concept in one of those because you can pick those up fairly inexpensive and rehab them fairly inexpensive and get them to where you're looking at, scale it, just like any other business, smart start small and scale.
Yeah.
So find a unit, 25 units, 10, 25 units, see how you make that concept work in that space, and because I know one of them right now in the region, he has got 14 units and it's a motel, but the shortest term tenant's been there for 3 years.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's the shortest one.
Affordable
So,
housing, there's a need. There's obviously a need. Okay. And we want to do that. We want to provide a quality product and help people. That's obviously the goal, and that's a wonderful goal. But at the end of the day, if you go under financially, you're not helping anyone. You're actually
oh,
going to hurt
absolutely.
them and yourself. So it's like, as the investor, we have to come at it and go, is there a profit? Is there a buffer? Can I put away CapEx?
Absolutely.
I'm nervous about it, but I love that you're going after this. And I just, I hope you'll stay in touch, and if
And
you
it's one
end
of
up
those
moving forward,
concepts
we want
that
more.
it's going to take some effort, some thought. It's going to have to be creative. And I mean, half of our best deals are going to be creative,
Mhm.
So how do we make this work in the mindset, knowing that you got to keep rents low? I mean, that is the caveat. Okay, I can raise the rent to this because you're low income. You know it's going to stay low. So you've got to kind of work it within that limit. And then, so trying to figure that out, like, how do you balance that? Where can you cut costs? Where can you spread out, costs? How do you make those numbers work with returns, with, and all that? And, on something like this, maybe not a deal, and I've known that, since the get is I love the concept. I have a great idea. Now, how
Right.
do we, and as I said in the beginning, like this may not be the deal, and I'm okay with that. I look at, 50 to 60 houses a month, I buy one. This is just the matter of the deal. The deal's
Yeah.
got to work, and it doesn't may not work at this time. This concept may work in a different place better, so kind of figuring that out.
Well, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, please comment, especially if you're on YouTube. We can see those. We want to know, what are your thoughts? Would you go after this deal? How would you do it? More importantly, what are your ideas? Because Mike and I have
What are
not
we
thought of
missing
everything.
revenue wise,
Right.
cost wise? I mean, we're both, not pros in this,
Nope.
we're coming at this as green as can be. And so we're not embarrassed if you call us out on
Not
something
at
that you
all.
think is
Nope.
basic. I would
Well,
love to learn that.
this is a shout out to Pad Split. I'm hearing great things about it, but I'm also hearing that their fees are very high. It's like a 30 or 40% chunk, or do you know their fees, Mike? I
30%
just,
is what they quoted me previously. And so
how much?
I don't, this concept would never work on Passport. So I'm asking for data. I'm asking for information. They won't necessarily service a community this small either. And so I have to kind of use data works kind of ish. And then how do I extrapolate that to here? And so
Yeah.
it
But
won't
if
be
you're
the greatest
taking
data, but it'll
investor
be information.
money, if you're putting in your money, we can't work with data-ish. Like, that's where I'm just
Yeah.
like low, low, low. I agree with your numbers on the rehab completely. I
Yeah.
mean, in fact, we probably need to push it to 12 of room, but like if it's gonna work, the money has to come from somewhere and you're gonna have to take it off of the purchase price, which is why my purchase price is 99,000. And by tomorrow, if I do more research, it might be about 49,000. We just have to be super conservative because we don't know the future. And this is with this asset class and this level of guest, you're also having higher issues with other things, maintenance issues, things getting broken, fighting. Who knows?
Station. Yeah.
It's not the Ritz, okay? It's a different level of tenant. So, like, that's again why we have to be just triple conservative. And that's why, as the viewer, please chime in. Mike and I, we're here not telling you we know it all. We're here to seek answers.
And I won't
So,
lie. I reached out to my Section 8 friend and he goes, Mike, why would you paint it? It's painted, isn't it?
oh goodness. Okay.
Yeah, he literally, this was a question he asked. He goes, is the flooring sufficient to not hurt people? And I go, yeah, it's just ugly. He goes, okay, why would you floor it? He literally cut my budget down
Well,
by doing these things
that's a good
because
thought
he's
because
basing it on the clientele base that he knows.
okay, Mike, go with me on this. I love it. The bottom floor is it not a concrete pad?
It's a concrete pad with current LVP. It's not pretty. It's ugly.
But what if you just shine that concrete floor and that's the floor? I mean, that's like a bougie thing now. I see it all the time in Walmart.
Possible. But the thing is it's already got LVP in it.
So you're saying maybe just leave it.
Just leave what's there. Just clean it up really nicely, and only fix it. So he cut my rehab budget down to about $6,800 a unit,
Okay.
$6,900 a unit, just by cutting out like some of the repairs. Just why do that? Because, well, this is a low income housing. They have low income standards. They don't have the standards that you're going to have for full
Right.
price. So you're going to be offering them a discount. You should be doing discounted rehabs, which for me, being a landlord, I mean, you're the same way. I like my properties to be decent. I want something that I would stay in. And he goes, Mike, this is Section 8.
Yeah.
You wouldn't stay in most Section 8. And he's right.
All right, so let's do the math, Mike. Let's do it. So where did I do that? I'll just open up a new chat GPT window. Okay, chat. Let's do this. I'm excited. I like that because 700,000. I'm looking to purchase a 100 unit hotel in Vidalia, Georgia. My purchase price is $99,000. I have a budget of $7,000 per room. I am expecting $150 per week with a 55% occupancy. Run the numbers for me. I want to know the projected monthly and annual revenue and also the cap rate.
Yeah, because he said that on the
Oh,
vanities,
it says 990,000. No, ma'am. That's Julie's not paying that.
Mike's not paying that either.
Thank you. Okay, let me correct it. My purchase price is actually $99,000, not
What?
$990,000. Let's run it again, chat. Chat's the best calculator ever. Okay. I just want you to keep estimating that revenue to be very low.
Oh, absolutely.
32%. We were up to a 32% cap. You cannot find that. That is exceptionally high. Monthly revenue around 35,000. That's better. So let's suspect 17.5. And then let's see, how much is your financing, Mike? 10%, shall we say?
I always estimate 10% just in case.
Okay. Assume I'm going to borrow the purchase price and the rehab at a 10% APR. Tell me what my numbers would be at that rate. I love AI so much, it's a problem. 84,000, not bad. 7,000 a month payment, not terrible. I'm warming to this. At $99,000 purchase price, I'm warming to this, Mike. And I
So I
also
have it.
feel like,
The number I had with rehab when we ran numbers on Section 8 type stuff, 1.5, including purchase and rehab. I'm sorry,
how much?
1.3. So it was 1.3.
Nope.
And so that was, and this is worst case scenario on everything with taxes, insurance, everything. It had us at 12K a month, just under 12K a month for all included. If we did, I think our purchase price was right at 600,000 because that's what my assumed maximum was. So if I did my assume, because remember, you always go with your assumed maximum, the worst case scenario. My assumed maximum offer, assumed rehab, which would be Section 8 rehab. Now the other one was bigger, but Section 8 rehab, 700K, 600K purchase price, 1.3
I like
million.
the rehab better, for
Yeah,
sure.
but
I
that's the
hate your
thing.
offer at 600. I would not do that. Sorry.
I understand that. That's not saying it's like saying, okay, I would pay 150,000 for this house, but they're willing to take 20,000. I'm not going to offer them 150,000. That's my maximum I would pay. I'm not going any higher. That's based on, what
I
I
don't even
see.
think that should be your maximum. I really
So,
like I didn't think you would go under it. That I do.
but yeah, that was, and this is just for numbers on the expense side. Maximum purchase price, rehab had me at 1.3. 11.5 is what it has me at for monthly payment. A little bit more bearable, and at 10%,
Mhm.
assume if we get lucky and we get, base plus two, prime plus two, we're at 9. So that's going to be some savings, things like, and so also like I said, government grants, things like that. This is one of those things that you have to do all the research and numbers before you ever look at it. The due diligence on this
For
thing would be
sure.
super complex just because I'm not going to use it for a standard use. It's so creative that honestly, just searching it on the internet, trying to find anything like it is almost impossible.
It is. And I wouldn't even do a ton of work on the grants and stuff unless I knew I could get it for my price. I'd still want it for my low price, even if I could get grants. I would get an LOI signed on it, so I knew the guy was even open to my number. And then I
Hmm.
would put time because the most valuable thing we have is time. At this point, I would kind of walk unless I just really thought he would look at my number. And then if I knew he would be like, okay, 99, maybe 120,
Yeah.
maybe if you're
Yeah.
lucky and I'm in a good mood. But anyway, we are gonna have to wrap up for today, Mike. But thank
Yeah.
you
Because
for
I'm,
coming
I'm about to
on.
run into my next meeting.
Right, exactly, same. But thank you for coming on. And I hope this has been a learning, opportunity for our listener. Again, we do want your comments and we will report back very shortly. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too.